captain of.
Thank you for tuning in to another week of the Raptors Den, brought to you by Faulty Logics.
Hey guys, my name's Peter here with my man Dan, and we have a special guest this week here. We have Meg joining in to put her spin on some of these topics that we're going to be talking about here today.
Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Let's definitely throw it out to Dan to do our giveaway that we've been trying to get away here for the better part of the season. Take it away, Dan.
Yeah, so we have 2 Google Play gift cards worth $15 each. Basically, to be eligible to win or qualify to win the cards, just make sure you leave a comment in one of the Raptors Den episodes below. Make sure you're subscribed to us, and make sure your profile is set to public so we can see that you're following us. And that's pretty much it. At the end of the season, we'll pick a winner, and then you guys have a chance to win.
Yeah, we'll get in contact with you to figure out where's the best meeting place, mailing address to send out those 2 gift cards, and we'll get them going out to our listeners. So jumping into the podcast that we have here today, it's been about 2 weeks since our last podcast, so there's been some good basketball-related information that we can talk about. We're trying to keep it a little bit short here for you guys. So on the agenda today, some touchy subjects have just been announced in the NBA, with one of the rookies for the Milwaukee Bucks in Sterling Brown and his police encounter that he had earlier in the season that was sort of kept under wraps until the offseason, until the police officers had their investigation and all that good stuff. Coming in from the Raptors camp here, because we are the Raptors Den, is some ginormous news in the firing of our beloved coach, Dwayne Casey. I'm going to talk about that, the goods, the bads about it, the potential replacements in that position, as well as just having a playoff recap in the round 2 recaps that we sort of missed, as well as where we currently are in the conference finals series in the East and the West. And depending on time, we might talk a little bit about the All-NBA teams that were announced today, or we might push that over to our next week's podcast where we're going to talk a lot more about the awards that would be coming out. Just to start it off, we can go back to the Sterling Brown video that just surfaced here from his incident with the police in Milwaukee. I know, Dan, you want to take a lead on this topic here. What was the main takeaways that you got from the video and the suspensions that were handed out to the Milwaukee Police Department?
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen the video, you guys can Google it or YouTube it. I think it's the full thing is like 7 minutes long.
I think, can we have a link of that on the bottom of our description in the YouTube video?
Yeah, I could put it in.
Yeah, we can put that in there for you guys.
Extra work for me. But yeah, we'll put it in there. Click on the link below and you can watch the video. Basically, you'll see the incident unfold. What happens is police officers see a car that's parked illegally outside of Walgreens.
Before you go much further, he was very, very illegally parked, though. He was over 2 handicap spots. It was kind of blatant.
Yeah, but I'm gonna kind of defend him in a bit as well too.
No, of course.
But yeah, so you'll see him come out. The police officer's like, "Hey, where's your driver's license?" I think one of the first things he says.
First
right?
thing he says.
Like, do you have a driver's license? Where
Yeah.
is it? So and then throughout the entire video, I mean, Sterling Brown was pretty calm about it. He wasn't aggressive or anything. He handled it pretty well, in my opinion, especially for a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And I felt like the officer was very aggressive right from the beginning. Like, he could have started off even with a simple like, "Hey, my name's Officer blah blah blah," and like, this car is illegally parked. Are you the one that's driving it? Blah blah blah. Right. Mm-hmm. So the main thing I want to defend, like you said, he's parked over 2 spots. He took up 3 spaces basically. But like the time of the day that he was there was like it's
2 in the
dark.
morning. Yeah, it was like 1 in the morning.
Nobody's there. Like, he's just going, parking, and like getting in, getting out.
Yeah.
Like, sure, give him a parking ticket or something, right? Like, I understand, but to have it escalated to the point where he gets arrested, thrown to the ground, and then get tased, that's excessive for a minor parking violation.
No, exactly. To Sterling Brown's defense, it was super late at night. There was probably not another car in the parking lot. So the fact that the police officer was sort of waiting for him to come out just to give him the ticket, the way that the officer came about it was totally out of left field. It was way too aggressive, way too abrasive. And the one thing that gets to me the most is the fact that he had to call for backup. Not the fact that, like, sometimes you fear for your life, that's whatever. This guy was out of the car, totally complying to any demands that the police officer was giving him. He gave over the driver's license. The officer asked him like 8 questions in a row, rapid fire, without giving him a second to think or even figure out what's going on.
Even the questions though is like he's asking
Unnecessary
what his
questions.
name was. He's actually answering the questions
Yeah.
properly, and he's like, "How do I know this is you? This is a fake ID." Blah blah blah. Right? Just like, then why are you even asking?
Exactly.
So
And-
they were aware of who he was.
No.
They didn't
They
know.
were not?
They didn't know he was a celebrity in as a
Right.
basketball player. But all they knew, they had his identification. They knew who he was. They could have ran his name,
For sure.
not his prince,
Yeah.
but they could have ran him in the system to figure out who he actually was.
It wasn't until after he got tased where
Right.
he's standing back up again, still calm as hell. Like, I
Yes.
would have been livid at
Oh
that
no,
time.
I would have been
Right.
done. I would have been.
Right.
I would have been in the
So-
back of the cop car at that
So,
point. It would have
and
been
he's
over.
like, Google me, right? Search up who I am. And he's like, why? Who are you? Blah blah blah. Right? And he wasn't saying it's just like just search me up, right?
Yeah.
And eventually, like he finds out that he's like a Milwaukee Bucks player, and like, yeah, the guy just didn't care. He's just mocking him. and
Yeah,
stuff, right?
it was totally out of left field. The police officer called for backup. About 3 other cop cars showed up, and there were at least 7 police officers on the one gentleman for a parking violation. This isn't like a physical crime. This isn't even theft or anything of that nature. This was parking illegally. Could you imagine yourself in Toronto here getting 4 cop cars called on you because you illegally parked? Everyone
Absolutely
illegally
not.
parks here in Toronto.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you can't park legally here or you're paying $50 for an hour. So the fact that so many cops and he got tased at the end of it was what got to me the most. I don't want to say it's a win for Sterling Brown, but since that time, since the video was released, the Milwaukee Police Department did their own investigation where all the officers associated in this incident have been suspended.
Are they suspended without pay though, or does it not
Yeah,
say?
that's my question.
That's what I
Good
hate.
question. I have no idea.
Like-
I'm reading off of CNN right now. It does say that all the police officers had a 2-day suspension.
Oh,
It
Oh,
doesn't.
whatever.
It doesn't say with pay, without pay. I don't know. I would
It's
like
like
to
a
think
it's like a
without.
long weekend.
It is. You get a weekend off for deliberately assaulting a black African American who plays basketball. Milwaukee's not a big town. Like it's not a big city.
Yeah.
So the fact that these police officers didn't know who he was is surprising to me.
The other thing too is that the Milwaukee Police Department has a history of this kind of stuff.
Yes.
So they're not. It's not looking good for them.
No.
So I don't know, man. It's terrible.
I hope it goes to the higher up authorities. I hope somebody with power and authority gets to look at these videos and make some sort of judgment call on these police officers' future work and whatnot. It just speaks to the times that we're in right now. It's like this situation couldn't have happened at a better time because of the media buzz that's happening with the police injustice and the police brutality. So this information should not get pushed aside. This
Yeah.
is so relevant to
Right.
what is happening in the world right now. Something bigger should come from
So-
this.
I watched another video of a police trainer, kind of rewatching the video and analyzing what happened and breaking it down. And it was kind of interesting because it kind of reminds you of like the refs in Syracuse when they replay like different calls and they're like, oh, this is why it happened, blah, blah, blah. And even him, because I've always questioned like police training because from what it seems to me, police training in the U.S., they're not trained to de-escalate.
Nope.
They are trained to immediately escalate the situation and take everything as a threat.
Yes.
So
Sure.
these police are like kind of working in fear almost, right? But even the police trainer was like, yeah, the police officer handled it incorrectly right from the beginning. He was aggressive, didn't state his name, nothing, no
Badge
purpose.
number. Yeah.
And even at the point where it's like he told Sterling Brown to back off because he was too close, like you don't have to get that guy to back off. Why
Mhm.
don't you back off? Like
Mhm.
what's with the ego trip, right?
Yep.
So there's so many ways that he could have handled the situation better, and it just didn't. And
And,
so
and honestly, it shouldn't have even came to what's your driver's license number. It's should have been more or less, you are clearly illegally parked. Here is your $150 ticket. Have a good day. Like
Mhm.
that's all that should have transpired. I don't even know why he had to get out of the vehicle. I don't know why he had to get a billion questions asked about him.
and it wasn't unlawful arrest because he has no warrants or nothing like that. So
So I don't understand the situation, but luckily nothing bad happened to Sterling Brown. He wasn't actually hurt. He wasn't. I don't think he was detained overnight or anything of that nature.
He did get booked.
Yeah, well, he would have had to go into the police station and do his whatever they would require him to do because he did get tased and he did get handcuffed. So they would have had to book him and do something. It was good that he didn't get any serious injuries because that would have been a whole of a lot different situation if he was actually injured in a situation like I'm going back to earlier when Tabo Cephalosha had an injury by the Las Vegas police or the LA police, something of that where he actually got hurt and he missed basketball time.
Mhm.
I don't know what the outcome was that, but I could imagine somebody got sued. Like
Should never have to go that far.
never.
Mhm.
Like because their bodies are their livelihoods. If they can't perform physically, they lose lots of money.
And
so
just to kind of bring this into perspective, like what happened here in Toronto just a few weeks ago with that the driver, um,
the
running
van.
over people
Yeah, the
in
van.
North York.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
He pretended to have a gun and everything and threatened to shoot people, and the cops still handled it really well.
And they still made the arrest.
And they
without-
made the arrest. They got
Yeah,
him
yeah.
alive.
yeah,
like,
no
No
taser
shots
shots.
fired.
Nothing.
So I don't know if our training's better or I have no idea, but it seems that way.
Yeah.
But moving on from the Sterling Brown topic there, it was a very big topic. It was a hot topic. We had to talk about it there a little bit. I know generally we like to start with the Raptors information first, but that was such a big topic. We had to talk about it first. But moving over to the more Raptor-related situation, the big news coming out of the Toronto camp, I think that's going to happen all offseason, is the firing of Dwayne Casey in the midst of his Coach of the Year run.
Ooh.
I know there were a lot of people that were not impressed with that decision of Dwayne Casey getting fired.
I called it.
You can say that you called it. I don't believe that anyone knew this was going to happen. I don't even think Masai knew this was going to happen until we got swept by the Cavs. That's when he was just like, we have to evaluate. Not sure if you want to voice your opinion first about how you feel about Dwayne Casey getting fired.
I don't know. I think we had an idea that there needed to be a change in the locker room. I think it was going between whether it was going to be Coach Casey or Kyle Lowry. With everyone not knowing what was going on with Jerry Stackhouse, if he was going to be leaving the 905, I think there was a lot of talk if he was to go to New York City, that Kyle Lowry could have followed him over there. And then when that didn't really seem to go into play, I think they just need to come up with a decision. And I think they unfortunately made the wrong one by getting rid of Coach Casey. But I think we'll just have to wait and see
Yeah, the jury's still
what
out.
happens.
And this is like the curse of the Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Like, anytime I see Coach of the Year, I'm like, man, this guy's gonna get fired.
Within the
Yeah.
next 2
'Cause-
seasons, they will get fired.
Yeah, we even had Sam Mitchell before.
Yep. And
George Carl.
he got fired the year after he won his Coach of the Year. He got Coach of the Year. Next year, I don't think we made playoffs, and they just said,
Yeah.
forget it.
Vinny Del Negro.
Yep.
We had Mike Brown with the Cavaliers. Like, like you just don't want to win that award.
It really it is the Madden curse of the Madden
Yeah.
game, but for basketball, it's the Coach of the Year curse. I have to agree with you there, Meg, that a change needed to happen.
Yes.
The easiest change to make is a coaching change. It's a lot harder. It's a lot more taxes and contracts to lose a player because that's a lot of more balancing the books. It's easier to make the coach change. I agree a change needs to be made. I don't think this is the time that the change was supposed to happen. Yes, with the amount of teams looking for a coach, if we didn't fire Casey at the start, all the
We'd
good
be-
coaches would be
Yes,
gone.
we'd have leftovers.
We would have all the leftovers, or we would have to take a chance on a rookie coach where that's just very, very risky with how good of a team we are.
Exactly. We're
We'll-
not in a rebuild stage.
No.
We're in a win now stage.
Exactly. We need a coach that would take us to the next level. Why couldn't it be Dwayne Casey? I don't know.
Well, my opinion on that is like we've been with Dwayne for like 7 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
7, 8 years.
Yeah.
So we've been building our entire team around his philosophy, his defense, and everything like that. And the craziest thing is that last year we had that whole change in mentality. We changed our team from ISO team to a
Team first.
team first basketball style. And that's already unheard of on its own. When you change your style of play and
It's-
not even changing a coach.
And I was gonna say, especially within 1 year, because usually big changes like that take 1 year, 2 year to build into
Right.
it. But no, our guys just adopted that right off the hop.
Right, and that's crazy in itself. But at the end of the day, something needs to change with the coaching because we do need to take it to that next level. We've taken everything that we can from Dwayne Casey, and pretty much we have nothing left to get from him.
I agree with that, but I disagree with that to an extent. Every year he has done something different. Just like how DeMar DeRozan every year added a little bit something different to his game. Every year Dwayne Casey added a little bit something different to his coaching philosophy, and it's come out to more wins for the Raptors.
Yes.
Yes, it's not the ultimate win. We can't beat LeBron in the playoffs. Very few people can say they've beat LeBron in the playoffs. But it's the fact of every year we are getting better as a team. We're getting more of a culture built in Toronto, which is why I don't think we should have jumped off of the KC train. Yes, after 8 years, we've got 5 playoff runs in that. We've got one conference championship appearance. We've won 2 or 3 division titles. Before that, that was unheard of. The Raptors winning 50 games in a season, that was not even thought about 6-7 years ago. So the fact that every year he's added something new and it's benefited us as a team, as an organization, I don't think we should have jumped off ship with Casey yet.
I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, it's more so in the fashion of how we lost because we did great the entire season,
Oh.
even in the first series, the first round of the playoffs.
Yep.
But when it came down to us playing against the Cavaliers, all that coaching and everything went down the drain. We regressed.
Yeah, there was no team basketball.
Right.
There was
and
no
went back
bench.
to isolation, Kyle Lowry and DeRozan.
Yep.
And we can't do that. Like, what's the point of playing so well all season and then forgetting about it when we need it?
But can you fault the coach on that? Like, I understand there's coaching and then there's the players on the court that have to do what they have to do to win. I grant that to DeMar and Kyle falling into their old habits. Old habits die hard, especially when there's a pressure-filled moment. You want to do what's most comfortable to you guys. That is, for DeMar especially, is dribble the air out of the ball. Everyone go to one side. I'm going to back you down. I'm going to do 2 pump fakes, and I'm going to lean into you. That is DeMar's bread and butter. That's what he likes to do. So the fact of when LeBron's putting the pressure on us and making it a 12, 14, 16-point lead, DeMar's going to go, forget that brought us here. I'm going to do what brought me to the NBA, which is dribble, pump fake, hopefully get a foul call. I can't blame that on Dwayne Casey.
Well, that's why he sat him for the fourth quarter. the
Yes,
entire
and,
fourth quarter,
and he
right?
did what he was supposed
But-
to do. He a player doesn't show up in the most critical time. You sit him. You don't know what you're going to get from him. You have to sit him, which is what I would do 100%. I don't think Dwayne Casey has to explain himself to anybody.
But then there needs
about
to be
why.
adjustments from game to game, which is what we didn't see.
Fair. I agree with that. But, like, there's only so many adjustments you can make when you're playing against LeBron James. Like, the only other adjustment is to triple team him. But then there's 3 other people that's open. Like, there's nothing you can do. I don't know. So it seems like we have a split table here about good and bad of firing Dwayne Casey in total. But now that it's done, we have to trust in Masai Ujiri's decision. I always trust in that guy. I think he can only do good things.
I agree.
What about the replacement? Casey's gone. We have to move on. We have to get a new person to take his spot. In the front runners, it was Mike Budenholzer, mainly known for his Hawks basketball from 2010 and 11, I believe, with Kyle Korver, Paul Millsap. That team was really good.
Right.
Damari Carroll. He was the number 1 leader on our replacements, but then he's been signed and going over to Milwaukee.
Yep.
Off the table. Other people that have been their names been thrown around in the Raptors organization is Becky Hammon, who would be the first female NBA coach, which would be very good for her. We also have, where Meg alluded to him a little bit earlier here today, was Jerry Stackhouse, currently the Raptors 905 coach with 1 championship, another championship appearance. And I'm not too sure of any other names that were being thrown around in the Raptors organization right now.
One of the assistant coaches for the
Oh.
Raptors.
Nick Nurse, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Nick
Because
Nurse-
he was one of
actually,
the
both of
main
them.
people that
help switch
helped
over.
convert the team into
Actually,
a team
both Nick Nurse and Rex Kalamian have been throwing their name around about coaching the Raptors. Let's throw it over to Meg first. Here, out of those four names, if you had to pick a name out of the hat who you would like to see coach the Raptors, who do you think would be the best fit?
I'm hoping for Jerry to make a comeback, you know? I think ever since he kind of, I hate to say left our Raptor family because I
He's
wouldn't
still a part of
necessarily
it.
say that he left, but ever since he's been a little absent, I think that we've really noticed his disappearance on the sidelines. I think Kyle Lowry used to rely on him a lot. I think that was his go-to guy, and I think ever since he's been away, Kyle necessarily hasn't been the same. So I thought when there was a chance that he might be going to New York, those two might be following suit together. But now that there is, he's obviously staying, so hopefully they can come back and Jerry Stackhouse can help us get a little further and beat LeBron one day.
I was going to say, if there was any player that would be able to stop LeBron James in their prime, it would be Jerry Stackhouse. He was a defensive-minded player. He was one of those bully defenders, sort of like Markieff Morris, who's giving LeBron James fits in this playoff series that
I
we're going to
remember
talk to you
him
about.
giving Vince Carter a shit ton of trouble.
Yeah,
man.
so if anyone could stop LeBron in their prime, it probably would have been not probably Jerry Stackhouse, but he would have had a good shot. He would have had a shot. I like that. I like that pick, especially. How about you, Dan? Who would you pick out of
Man,
those four
it's-
names? I know there's
it's-
many names.
Yeah, it's really hard because like the guys that I would want to see, they've already gone to different teams.
Yeah, Fizdale.
So,
I would have loved
yeah,
Fizdale.
I would have loved
Oh, man.
Fizdale, man. I like him as a coach,
Yeah.
and he has so much respect from players as well too.
Yep.
But I don't know, man. I feel like all the options that we have, sadly, are kind of leftovers right now because none of them have been head coaches
No.
for an NBA team.
Yep.
So, but we also can take a risk, and I mean, look at the Celtics. They took a risk with a college coach,
Yeah.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
And
And he's looking to
arguably
be
the
coach of
best
the year.
coach ever.
Yeah.
Well, not ever, but probably the best coach in the league right now.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'd say
How could you not say at least maybe not best coach ever, but best coached season?
yes.
Because this has to be the best coach. The injuries that he had to deal with, the amount of rookies he had to implement into his team, Brad Stevens did a hell of a job.
And his composure, man. Like he just looks like he's always in control. Like
Absolutely.
he's a captain you want to have.
Yeah, no, it is true. And he's the captain that would fight for you. Not like Tyronn Lue or Ty Lue would sort of like
Oh my god.
throw you under the
Like,
bus.
he's such a shit coach, man.
He would throw people under the bus. Brad Stevens would never throw anybody under any bus. Like he is the man.
Yeah.
No, but I hear what you're saying. Out of those four names, I would really like to see Nick Nurse as being our head coach. He is the silent assassin of our offensive change because everyone knows Dwayne Casey. What's his bread and butter? Defense. What was the biggest change this season was the offense. Yes, Dwayne Casey was a part of it. He must have made some arrangements, but mostly it was Nick Nurse who was on the offensive end of the plays more times than not. So having his mind go into that kind of an offensive game plan and make a significant change, and even bringing up Jerry Stackhouse as a bigger assistant role than what he was.
Especially since Jerry Stackhouse worked with so many of our
Of the
NBA
players, one on one.
right?
And like he was more of a player coach, which like Jamal McGlure is doing here right now. But having Jerry Stackhouse as removed from
And
the
coming
player
from the
role,
905.
yeah, and knowing how to run a full team, going into and running it effectively. He's won a championship,
For sure.
and he went to another championship where he lost in the final game.
Mhm.
So it's like he knows what he's doing. Having another player that's gone through the fire. I don't like these coaches that's never really played a basketball game, who's like going back to college, which was
Right.
30, 40 years ago. Jerry Stackhouse been in the NBA. He's played for at least a decade in the NBA. He's played on multiple teams, so he has a lot of different franchise experience as well.
And he wasn't a shitty player like Tyronn Lue.
He was never a starter. He was never a star,
Right.
but he was a role player. He was a
Right.
key role player. If Jerry Stackhouse doesn't get the head coaching job, I will be very disappointed. I would be devastated if he leaves the organization. He should come as an assistant coach under Nick Nurse, or he should be staying at the 905, do a gamble with a 1-year coach, have him burn out, and then Jerry Stackhouse comes full time. Like something like that. Stackhouse has to stay in the family. I think that's the way that it would have to be done.
Speaking on the coaching positions as well too. Apparently Dwayne Casey is one of the head front runners for
Detroit.
Detroit Pistons.
How do we feel about that with him being so close to home, but not? You know what I mean?
I think it's really interesting because they have such a different team than the Raptors.
Right.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what that's gonna look like.
But then
Would be
again,
cool.
one or two moves, and they would be a good team because Detroit. I don't want to say they got better when Blake came, but they did get a little bit better with when Blake came.
Yo, Andre Drummond is developing a step back jumper.
Did you see that that
Yeah.
Instagram? That is fake. It is
Come on,
false.
dude. Everyone
It
laughed
is-
when I said he was gonna hit free throws this year. He hit 60%.
Yeah, that's better than his 30% that he did the year
Yeah,
before.
that's amazing.
It's huge, but I don't see it happening as a reliable jumper like DeMarcus Cousins or like that's a reliable jumper.
right.
If he's shooting like JV numbers, but then again, you can see what Dwayne Casey did with Jonas Valanciunas. Why can't he do that with Andre Drummond?
Mm.
And Andre Drummond is a lot more athletic than JV. Like JV's not athletic; he's just big.
Right.
But having Drummond and Blake Griffin, which are two not defensive minded players, but they can play very good defense if they want to. With Dwayne Casey's coaching, I think they would be a threat in the East. Why not? Get a good running gun point guard like they have with Reggie Jackson. Have two big stout defenders that he's never really had in Toronto. Our best duo defense was what? Ibaka and JV.
Yeah.
Ibaka and Pascal. Like,
I'm really disappointed that the Detroit Pistons didn't even make the playoffs. To be honest, I think they should.
well, they made their trade way too late in the season though. So they just didn't have enough time. They will make playoffs this year coming up. If Blake stays healthy, that's always a big question because Blake has never really been healthy. I think this was the most healthy year he's had. And he did miss some time.
Mhm.
I'd like to see Dwayne Casey bounce on his feet. I know he would get a job again sooner than later. It's nice that it's in Detroit, but
Yeah.
Yep.
facing him 4 times is gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
What about players on our team? There's a lot of trade rumors going on.
A lot of trade rumors in general in the NBA. We can touch base about those real quick.
Let's start with DeRozan because
I
this
was gonna
goes back to last summer.
Yeah. This goes back to even the trade deadline. We were
Yeah.
talking about moving him in the middle of the season. And we were the first in the East, which was going to be stupid to do it. DeMar DeRozan, would before we even talk about who was going where, would you even be open to the idea of losing DeMar DeRozan?
If you're asking me, no.
No.
We cannot lose DeRozan. Like there's nobody in the NBA that is gonna be as loyal to Toronto as DeRozan.
Absolutely.
Good. I'm glad that you said loyal. I thought you were going to say as good as DeMar DeRozan. I was like, Kawhi Leonard. Like, your best friend Kawhi Leonard. No, but loyalty is huge, and no one would be as loyal to us as DeMar has shown,
Yes.
evidently.
Like we know that we can invest in him and
have.
keep him on the team. Even if we bring in a better player, we can know that I think that DeRozan will still be loyal to the team and continue playing for us, even if he's not the franchise player.
You think?
I hope so.
I don't know.
And another big thing too is like, I think we also have to keep Lowry as well too. I've been saying all season long, you kind of need Lowry to keep DeRozan in check. I think if we lose Lowry, we it's a huge risk,
It's true.
right?
I totally agree.
But yeah, we can't. That's loyalty we can't lose. Because if we go and get another player, if we get a Kawhi, if we get a Paul George, whatever it is, they're gonna stay with us until they can leave.
I was gonna
As
say
soon as they leave, they're out.
until the money runs out or until the wins dry out.
Yeah.
When one of those two things go, they're going to be
We
gone.
might see another like Vince Carter happen.
I think the only way that we would see another Vince Carter happen is if DeMar does it to us, like what Vince did.
Oh man,
I don't see it in DeMar's
no.
personality because he's not as flashy as Vince Carter.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
don't think he doesn't seem like somebody who gives up. Either.
Exactly.
No,
that
he
would be it.
That's exactly what would happen, though. There would be some burning of jerseys.
Oh.
People running
Oh,
in the
for
streets.
sure.
It would be awful.
It'd be terrible.
I can't even imagine.
But out of the two, DeMar or Kyle, if you had to lose one, who would you be more willing to lose there? You know what? Let's throw in another name. Let's throw in Ibaka. We can throw in Ibaka as well. Because those are JV a little bit more than
They're
Ibaka.
the
But
big
those
contracts.
are our contracts. Those are the ones that are heavily weighting down our opportunity to get more people.
Yeah.
We can even throw it to you there, Meg. if you had to let one go, doesn't matter the consequences, the repercussions, DeMar, Kyle, or Ibaka.
Well, now that we've thrown in a third,
Yeah.
my decision changes a little, and I'm going to help my ladies out here and say that although Ibaka is lovely to look at on the court, which he obviously is, I do think that his attitude could go. I do think that it is a problem in the locker room as well. I don't think that they mesh as well with him as they do with Kyle and DeMar on many different levels, on the court, off the court. I just think that they have a better relationship with them. But it would be sad to see him go at the end of the day. I think he's a cool guy, but he might be what needs to go.
He'd be the most expendable from my
I
point,
agree.
For sure.
purely because the reason why we bought him was to guard LeBron. This was about 2 years ago, before the first LeBron beating that we took, or after the first LeBron beating in the first round, but then before the one after Indiana. I don't know how to keep it straight. But we bought him solely to play defense, and his jumper was an added bonus. His defense fell off this year.
Yeah, I feel like
I
he
think-
still has yet to do that.
I think
It's true.
he's fallen off
Since
since
Oklahoma.
since the finals run that they had.
Yeah, even in Orlando, he was never the defensive-minded player that they
Yeah.
thought they were going to get.
He's settling for the 3-pointers.
Exactly. So it's he's getting the European big man game, which is not bad if you can do it well.
Yes, and the thing that made him such a defensive threat back in the day was because we didn't have those 3-point shooting
Yeah.
Right.
like
But now with the
stretch
Golden
fours
S-
and stuff.
yeah.
So he was able to play in the post and help on defense. Now that he's all the way out on the 3-point line guarding shooters, like there's no help defense. His blocks
true.
aren't there
For
anymore.
sure.
It's true.
He was almost averaging 3 blocks a game.
Before he came to Orlando, and definitely before he
Yeah.
came to Toronto. So I think Ibaka would be the best one to move. It would be the hardest one to get value for, because that's the main thing that we need. We need to get value back for the people that we're losing. The only player in my mind that we would get an equal value for, we would never get DeMar's value. Ibaka would get undervalued as well. I think the best player would be Kyle Lowry. His contract is coming up. I think there's only 1 to 2 years left on it. So it is expiring a little bit. That's a little bit of room that other teams can play with.
Mhm.
And realistically, if we get a good starting point guard and a draft pick, I would be satisfied with moving Kyle if it gives us a good value back. As long as we don't really lose any of our young people, because our team is point guard based. We have 3 legitimately very good point guards in Kyle, DeLon, and Fred VanVleet. VanVleet a little bit more than DeLon Wright.
Mhm.
But those 3 guys are realistically very good. And we even have Lorenzo Brown, who won the G League MVP.
Right.
Yes, it's the G League. I understand it's not the NBA. He still won it. It's better to win it than be absolutely trash in the G
Right.
League.
For sure.
So realistically, we have 4 suitable point guards. Nothing to tip your hat on. But if we get a nice Ricky Rubio, had a hell of a season. If we get a Rubio, a Rajon Rondo, who's coming up a little bit in the end of his years, one of those guys and a draft pick, I'm fine with that. We can develop DeLon and Fred a little bit more, give them a little bit more time with a little bit of an older point guard who's not looking so much to win now like Kyle obviously wants.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a benefit.
I do think I do like the idea of trading Kyle Lowry. I've liked it for a few years now.
But then,
I think he's obviously in his decline, but at the same time, I still think that people overvalue him,
Yeah.
which is why I think it's a good trade to do. He wants to go to Philly.
Yeah.
So people have said. I think that's a bad move for
it'd be,
Philly
ter-
if
it'd
that
be
happens.
terrible for Philly. Absolutely terrible.
What if we get like Markel Fultz?
I've heard that
That's
trade.
been
Don't
part
laugh.
of the rumors. I heard that rumor too.
I've heard that. I've heard a Lowry and a draft pick for Markel Fultz and Robert Covington. That's not bad because like
That's
even
unfortunately a reality.
it is even if we keep our draft pick and we have Covington and CJ Miles, who plays generally the exact same 3-and-D kind of player. Covington made an all defensive team this year.
Yeah.
That's huge. Like that's a guy that I would be confident in playing against LeBron James.
He would be the guy that we wanted in DeMar Carroll.
Yes. Yes.
Oh man.
he would be
Don't get me started.
knock on wood, because when Damari came, we all had the highest expectations. I know Meg didn't really like Damari Carroll at all.
Trash.
Especially
I didn't
after
like
his-
him either.
But-
I thought that was such a dumb trade. I'm like,
was-
why do we get him?
in principle, it worked. It made sense until his knee blew
It
up.
was just as bad as Rudy Gay. It was like,
That didn't make sense though. The
why
Rudy
are
Gay
we
trade didn't
doing
make
this
sense.
stupid stuff?
The Damari Carroll made sense because it was the fact of he didn't need the ball as much as Rudy Gay, and he was okay with playing defense. But then he blew his knee out, and then he was never the same.
Mhm.
Unfortunate. You can't bank on injuries. It sort of reminds me of the time when we brought Jermaine O'Neal out. On paper, it worked. It looked amazing. Two twin towers, bringing the old Spurs and David Robinson and Tim Duncan
Yeah.
type of feel. It didn't work. Like that's the gamble. Like
That's a
Work.
crazy gamble.
it is.
I must have lost a game of cards or something to pick up Tamari Carroll. He was a blindfolded pickup. I'm not entirely sure what happened there.
Hey, you win some, you lose some. Masai will never be bad in my books, even if he totally blows up this team, purely because he got rid of the Bayarni deal. Like, getting rid of that, you are never doing wrong again in my eyes. Like, good for you for getting rid of that Bayarni deal and the Rudy Gay deal. Taking it and getting rid of it within about a 12-month span, that's
Yeah.
pretty hell of amazing.
And we can't forget another guy that's on the roster as well too. That's eating up a pretty big chunk of our salary.
Mm-hmm.
Norman Powell.
Norman goddamn Powell. Honestly, if he is the reason why we're going to lose Fred VanVleet, I am going to be absolutely devastated. Devastated. That's a guy that you're not going to get value for.
No, you're not.
No one is going to give you anything for $11 million a season, Norman Powell.
If we can Biombo him somehow,
Yeah, that's another good deal.
That would
But like
that would be crazy.
Biombo like left
But
as a free
Biombo-
agent.
as a free agent,
and
Yeah.
Biombo did better.
but he got paid, so like that's what happened. We
You can't
knew-
complain. Like Biombo got paid. Like
That's what
Yeah,
it is.
go
We
get your
knew-
money.
No one's gonna pay Norman though.
Well, we already are, so it's like we're on
yeah,
the
we're
hook
stuck.
Yeah, we're screwed.
stuck with
for the
it.
next 3 years of $11 million a season, unless Masai can pull another rabbit out of his hat and do a Bayarni deal.
We have to take some
Um,
sort of shit
Yeah,
along
we would,
with it.
we would get
Expiring
absolute
contract or
trash.
something.
Expiring contracts,
Joakim Noah.
rookies, and blown up draft picks. Like Anthony Bennett would come back.
Oh, no.
Oh my god.
Send him
Um,
to the 905.
Like honestly, he got bounced from the G League too. He was in the G League affiliate for a couple years, and then he still got bounced out to the European leagues.
There's a couple of names to throw out though. Like, well, one of the guys we talked about is Marc Gasol. Nobody really wants him on the Memphis Grizzlies. He got his coach fired. He's been talking shit about his entire team the whole time. We've talked about him at the trade line, possibly getting him as well too. What do you think about that?
We couldn't use Marc Gasol. He is a better JV, but he's an older JV. So why would we want?
But you know what we're you would know what we're getting out of him though.
Yes, but we don't know how long we would get it for. It's the fact of realistically, how many more years does Marc Gasol have? I'm surprised Paul Gasol still even plays.
Yeah, Paul
Like-
Gasol, I can understand. You don't want to take the risk.
No,
I think Marc Gasol still got like maybe
three
three to 4 years of
on,
like being good.
I'm saying 3, and that's being generous. JV is still 26. Like JV has 8 years, 8 to 10 years of basketball left. Maybe not good basketball, but of basketball. Marc Gasol has 5 years of basketball, if that, maybe at all.
Right.
So Marc Gasol is a name that could be thrown around. DeMarcus Cousins is looking for a deal as well.
2 more names to throw there.
If you say Karl Anthony Towns, I've heard. Were you going to say Karl Anthony
Yes.
Towns?
Oh, I would
And
be.
Andrew Wiggins.
I
I'd
knew
be
you
okay
were.
with either of those, but they're unfortunately probably not going to happen.
They're definitely not going to. I would be more happy with Karl Anthony Towns than
For sure.
Than
Andrew Wiggins,
for sure.
because Wiggins is Demar Derozan reincarnated.
Yeah.
But like, Karl Anthony Towns would be a benefit if we could do a straight up Ibaka Karl Anthony Towns deal. I know it won't happen. We can even throw in Ibaka and Norman Powell. No, okay. But
Why?
if Karl Anthony Towns, because it does seem like he wants out. I don't know
he
why.
wants
Yeah.
out. He said a couple times.
I'm not really
he
sure why either
Seems
because
to be having some issues with his coaching staff.
Yeah.
Well,
Thibodeau's a tough
he
coach.
loves the Chicago guys.
That's what it is. I was gonna say Thibodeau's a real tough
Misses
coach
his
to please.
friends.
It's a tough coach to please.
He is a tough coach,
but
but I like his coaching style. To be honest,
yeah,
Mhm.
it fits some players. It doesn't fit other players. That's
Yeah.
why Derrick Rose came back to him because he likes his style.
Mhm.
Jimmy Butler came to him because he likes his style. Some players don't like it. Me personally, I don't think I would like it. He's a very, you have to give me 125% in your media, like press conferences, let
Right.
alone on the court. Like that's 150%. Like you have to give it your all in any aspect
Mhm.
he is expecting it, which is tiring.
does that make Carl Anthony Towns feel soft though?
It could. It very well could, because especially because like you don't know how the dynamic is in the locker room. I can imagine Thibodeau, if he thinks you're dogging it, he's gonna let you know you're dogging it.
I think it kind of does seem like it because, to be
He's-
honest, if you
he's
look at
young.
the way Carl Anthony Towns plays, he does play a bit soft.
He's the suburban game.
He could kill almost any center if he was to try to play down in the post and back people up.
Right.
But he takes a lot of jump shots,
Which is fine.
which is okay because he makes them.
Yeah.
But it's like I think he could do a lot more, be a lot more effective if he also went down in the post more often too.
That's true.
Yeah, but Andrew Wiggins would be pretty cool just because he's a
That's what I would say.
Toronto guy.
I would love Andrew Wiggins in a comeback of Corey Joseph.
What if we could do
Sweet.
like a
Ooh.
combo of both of them?
we would lose a whole team?
Well, here's the thing, because we have a really good bench. We know that already.
Yeah,
bench
Right.
mob.
Everyone knows that.
And our problem right now is the starting lineup.
Yes.
Yeah.
So why not just rebuild the starting lineup? We could get rid of Lowry, Ibaka, and Jonas Valanciunas.
That's true. I was gonna say if you wanted a package deal for Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns, that's
Mhm.
gutting the Timberwolves. We would have to give them DeMar. We would have to give them Ibaka. We would have to give them Pascal or Van Vliet, one of our bench mob key focal points. Not the Jakob Portals, because like he was a part of the bench mob. He wasn't the bench mob.
Yeah.
It was DeLon, Fred, and Pascal who was our bench players, and CJ Miles a little bit. We would have to give up at least DeMar, at least Jonas, probably Ibaka, and a draft pick for those two.
So are we trying to say that we would be confident right now building around our bench mob?
I would be.
I still want to keep DeRozan.
Yeah, no, I would.
I want to
be-
have like Wiggins and Carl Anthony Towns and
Danny
DeRozan
wants
as our
to
big
have his
three.
cake.
Okay, I was gonna say, Dan, you want it all. Like you want the Golden State Warriors on the Raptors just changing jerseys.
And
I don't know how Golden State even did that. It's not happening. But like I understand the benefit of it. But I don't know. I'll be happy with a Karl Anthony Towns, and we'll pick up what's the young point guard on the Tyson. I was gonna say Tyson Jones
on where?
on Milwaukee on Minnesota.
Minnesota.
The
I
backup
have no idea.
Tyrus
Backup is Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose. Yeah.
They have
the
they're
young guy
starting
from-
as Jeff Teague.
Yeah. No, there was a Tyrus Jones. He was a good
Maybe Tyus Jones or something like that.
something like that. But him and Karl Anthony Towns, I think that would be a good move. Yeah, Tyus Jones. Yeah, I was right. Milwaukee Bucks,
Mhm.
Minnesota Timberwolves backup point guard. He's a good young player. I think he would be beneficial for us as well. We can talk about trade rumors all day. It doesn't really make a difference, especially when the season's not even over yet. None of these big deals are going to happen until the championship is decided. So we can move on from trade rumors. I know we're going to talk about it a lot more in our podcast. We are coming up on a bit of time. Let's just do a quick recap on the playoff series, especially round 2 that just wrapped up. We had the Cavs sweep our Raptors in 4. The Celtics beat the 76ers kind of handily 4-1. Houston over Utah 4-1. Golden State over New Orleans 4-1 as well. We can talk about all individual series, but let's not even do that. Let's talk about the big takeaways from that series, that round of series. My main takeaway was the fight that Utah had against Houston, even though everyone knew they weren't going to win. They came out and balled.
Yeah, they balled.
Even with Donovan Mitchell getting injured in Game 5 late, Utah still looked to be good. And they were missing Ricky Rubio the whole series. He didn't
Yes.
play one game. With the way he was playing in the first round,
They could have maybe taken it to 6, 7.
I was surprised they won a game.
Right.
So that, to me, shows Utah's rebuild was successful.
Mm-hmm.
can we
That's
even
why
say,
their coach is in the talks for coach of the year.
Can we even say successful or more lucky? Because they hit the goddamn jackpot with that Donovan Mitchell pick. Who would have thought that was going to happen?
Right.
I was lucky.
Like, so,
And he was even saying like he was thinking about staying in school for another year.
yeah, like he didn't even really want to come. But now that he's pretty much second in the Rookie of the Year conversation, that's pretty huge.
I would
It's
like
the
to have him
truth.
in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I think we could have picked him, couldn't we have not? He was still on the board when we had our first pick.
Something like that. What
I'm
is
pretty
he?
sure.
He went ninth or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It would have been close. Who do we... Yeah, that's just one of those damn moments. But then again, if we did have him in Toronto, he wouldn't have been who he was.
True.
Because he would have been behind DeMar and behind
And
Kyle
Lowry.
before touching the rock to shoot, which would have been different.
I didn't know who he was until I watched him spank us live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
I was there and
Got
I
the
was
ball.
watching that game and I remember walking out there and being like, "Who the hell is that kid?" And
Oh, I
what
went
How'd you
there.
know?
was the score? I couldn't.
I went there
believe it.
cheering for him. I was the only one there that was like, "Yes, Donovan."
'Cause you're a hater. I know you're on this Raptors Den podcast, but you are a secret
Yeah, Danny
Raptors
actually has
hater.
a Cavs jersey on right now.
Cavs jerseys, Sixers jerseys. They all know. We all know.
It's
about
true,
this.
it's true.
Hat on.
It's true. I can't deny that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, we know he hates Steph Curry. That is known, and that's fine. We're okay with that. Any big takeaways from the second round? Like,
Yeah. I want to talk about the 76ers.
yes,
Man, they completely blew it because
blew it.
I thought that the 76ers were going to go to the finals on the East. Like, that's where I put my money. And I don't know. I think it was just coaching, to be honest. Their coach
Was.
just got outcoached.
And can you blame him?
And it's kind of the same as the Raptors, too, because you see the 76ers play really bad at the beginning of the season. They got better, they got cleaned up and everything like that. And then against the Celtics, they just regressed again.
old
And
ways.
they're crappy turnovers. I'm just watching these turnovers. I'm like, what the hell are with these stupid passes with zero effort, easy to steal? I'm like, this, oh my God. It was just disgusting to watch.
Plus, with Ben Simmons not performing nearly as good as he was in the last series or even the end of the season, averaging, what did he average? Like 12 points a game in the second round? Like, that's
Yeah.
just absolutely
He had one game with
garbage.
just 1 point.
Yeah, like, that's absolutely
And he wasn't even
trash.
getting rebounds or assists either.
Yeah,
So it's like,
he's usually Mr. Triple-Double, but I don't think he got a triple-double in that series out of the 5 games. That's sad.
should have played Markel.
Huh.
Oh my
Like
God.
how Fultz. Him and his suspect jumper. Any other big takeaways other than the Raptors getting swept? How did you feel about the Raptors getting swept there, Meg?
It was super disappointing. I did not expect that to happen. Not one win, obviously. That was trash. And LeBron always completely ruins us. I always think that we're going to be okay. We're going to do so well. Even in my fantasy league, I had us up against Houston. And I don't know if that was just like the fan in me taking over, but it's very disappointing that they couldn't win
A
one game
game.
for us. I know those games at home, we were really hoping they were going to pull out at
In the
least one win
ACC.
for us.
Yeah.
Like one game. That's all we wanted. One game. Even a
Yeah.
respectable game.
And I'll be honest, as much as I like LeBron
In a
James,
close game.
I didn't believe LeBron James's team
No.
could
Oh,
beat us.
No.
no.
So
It-
I still thought, even though we lost the first game, I thought we were still gonna win in like 5 or 6, but we got swept. I don't know what happened.
Overall, as a team, I do not believe that they are better than
Oh,
us.
no,
definitely
Tyloo
not.
is not better than Casey.
No.
I don't think their bench is better than ours.
It's and the fact of the Cavaliers team didn't even show up for the first 2 games.
No.
Mhm.
Like
It was
however
LeBron.
it was literally LeBron
And
James
Tristan.
getting 40 points and triple doubling and Tristan Thompson being
Cheating Tristan.
resurged,
Yeah.
Cheating Tristan.
third trimester Thompson.
Like,
coming out.
resurging himself to being this 2020 guy that happened 2 playoffs ago. Like, I don't get it. It's one of those things that you just shake your head and you go, he's a bad man. LeBron James is a bad man.
Yeah.
That's all we can say.
Him and his Brampton backup.
But moving on from round 2, nothing really big takeaways. Everyone that was supposed to win ended up winning. We can argue about the Cavaliers Raptors series, that's whatever. But right now, these 2 series, the Houston versus Golden State, Boston versus Cleveland, arguably the 2 best series of the playoffs this year, hands down.
Super entertaining.
Mhm.
Like right now, as of today is May the 24th. We are sitting at 3-2 Boston over Cavaliers, which is
So everyone's defended home court.
exactly.
So far.
And then right now in Houston and Golden State, it's 2-2, where each road team has one win
Yeah.
and one loss. So that series is totally unpredictable, where the Boston Cavaliers, when you can say home team wins it all. I really don't know. And Boston has the home court advantage.
Yes.
Game 7
They
will
do.
be in Boston
If it goes there.
if it goes there. But these series, hands down, are the two most entertaining series I've seen in actually a long time. Other than the
Yes.
Golden State Cleveland playoff championship, where Cleveland came back from 3-1, that was unbelievable. But these two series are pretty unbelievable to watch as well.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And what my favorite thing about this is that start of the season we talked about, oh, it's going to be another Cavaliers Warriors
State.
finals, right?
Yeah.
Hands down,
And then-
bucket already.
Throughout the entire season we're like, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like these other teams are pretty solid. And then
The Bostons, the Torontos, the Houstons.
right, even leading up to playoffs, so like, man, can the Warriors make it to the finals? Can the Cavaliers make it to the finals?
Yeah.
Cavaliers might not even make it out of the first round.
First round.
Yeah.
When they went to
Right?
7 with Indiana.
Yeah, and now we're looking at it as like, maybe it's another Cavaliers and Warriors finals.
Potentially, but then now we're looking at Boston with all their injuries
Yeah.
and their youth, and Terry Rozier looking to be playoff MVP if they win it all.
Yes.
It's taking another turn. It's looking like it's a Boston final.
Could be.
Yeah. They've been giving the Cavaliers a run for their money.
Yes.
Surprisingly, I couldn't believe that they've definitely shown up.
They did.
We did not. They showed up. So
Yeah. Hey,
good for them.
they've beaten the Cavaliers more times than the Raptors have in the last 2 seasons combined
Yeah.
in these 3 wins. So I tip my hat off to Boston. If I was to say I'm rooting for a team to win it all out of the 4 remaining, we can even go around the table. Who do you want to win and who do you think will win?
Yeah,
I
want and
think
think is two
It's
different
two
things.
different things. I get that. I want Boston to win. Like, win it all. Win the championship. I'm not
Oh,
a
man.
Boston fan. Like, fuck the Boston Celtics. But, like, out of these 4 teams, they are the underdog. They are the underdog, and I like the underdog story. I want Boston to win. Out of these 4 teams remaining, I think it might be Houston, though. I don't know. Like, if they can game out. Go to you, Dan. Your want and think.
I want the Cavaliers to win, not
course
because
you do.
the Cavaliers, but
You want LeBron to get another ring.
it's not even so much that I want him to get another ring. It's just the fact that if he wins with this shit team,
yeah.
there's no argument that he's the greatest of all time. You cannot argue it. Like it would be written in stone. Like, to carry a team that he has like this, where literally everyone's averaging like 10 points a game and he's averaging like 40.
And he's averaging like 42 minutes a game.
Right.
That's
Like-
unreal.
If he wins against Houston Rockets or the Golden State Warriors, you can't deny that he's not the best player who has ever played the game of basketball.
Agree.
That's why I want to see it happen. I just want people to shut up.
Who do you think will win?
What I think will win, it's between the Warriors and the Rockets.
It's the West Coast.
Yeah, it's West. I don't think the Celtics have what it takes to beat them. I'm leaning towards the Warriors. They got lucky in the first round playing the Spurs.
Yeah, they got
That's the only reason. They have a full team, healthy team now. And the Rockets have just Chris Paul and James Harden.
Do you need anyone else?
I
Realistically?
don't know, man. It's tough, but any given moment, like, Clay can go off,
Steph
Durant can go off, Steph can go off. Draymond's gonna be annoying all throughout the entire series. So
Yeah.
How about you, Meg? Who do you want and who do you think will win?
I want the Rockets to win. I've
You-
been cheering for the Rockets for a while. At the end of the day, I am a bit of a Rockets fan myself, but I think that James Harden got snubbed last year. I truly do. I
think he
do
got snubbed
not
for the last
think
2
that
years.
Russell Westbrook should have taken home that MVP trophy, and I think that now that he is out of the running, I definitely think that James could bring it home. I really do think he could. I want him to, but I'm just tired of seeing Golden State and the Cavaliers in the
Oh.
final. I just can't. I can't see it anymore.
I just don't want the Warriors to win. Like, I'm cool with any of the other 3 teams.
Man, I don't want LeBron to win at all. I'm so bitter.
I know you
Damn,
are.
I can't even pretend. I don't want him to win at all.
That's fair. So I know that you.
Ounce of me, not for his kids, like not for anything.
I would like a new winner as well. That would be cool. So we know that you want Houston to win. Do you think Houston's going to win it as well?
I think if they beat Golden State, they can do it.
That's fair.
I do believe that. If they can get past Golden State,
Yeah.
hell yeah, they can beat Cleveland.
Yeah, why not? I think they could because Cleveland's team is so garbage. Like it's unbelievable how they're even in the conversation
Right?
still. It's like LeBron.
That's why they're the
and
true
that's
underdog.
it. But can you ever be the underdog when you have arguably the best player to ever play the game on your team? No matter what, you lace up your shoes, you have 48 minutes ahead of you, you see LeBron James tying his shoes right beside you, you're sitting there thinking, I got a
You're
shot.
like, I'm okay.
We have a shot to win this game. Like, I don't care about everybody else. I see LeBron James putting on his shoes and he's warming up. We have a shot to win this game. I don't care who's out.
Stevie Wonder could be their point guard.
And they have a shot to win. So that's why I don't think you can be called the underdog. But looking on the Boston's roster, their most experienced player and their best player is Al Horford.
Yeah.
Al Horford. He was not even the best player on the Hawks team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost.
True.
He should realistically, if they were healthy, he would be the third or fourth option on the team. Now that he's the backbone of it, and they're still winning games. Hats off to Brad Stevens. Do whatever you're doing. Keep doing it. You're going to be the coach of the year for the next 2-3 years if you keep this up. Hands down. But other than that, I know that we've talked about everything that we really had on the agenda here today. Pretty spot on show to what we were thinking about here. Any last signing off remarks here from around the table or anything?
Cavs in 7.
Hey,
man.
fine. Okay, want to do a hot take? I'm saying Rockets win it all. Championship series. I don't know who they're going to play. It's probably going to be Boston. But unfortunately, they're going to win in 6. Sure. Hot take for the day. Rockets in 6.
Yeah,
Rockets in
I was
7.
gonna say- I was going to say Rockets in 6 as well.
Yeah, why not?
Shit.
So I think both, another hot take, I think
Against
both
the
of these.
Cavs.
Against the Cavs.
Yeah, against Cavs.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think.
Definitely. I think both of these conference finals are going to go to 7. Both of them going to game 7. Could be one of those barn burners.
I'm going to love it.
Oh, me too. You got to love playoff basketball, guys.
LeBron's going to be so tired.
He's already dying out right now.
Yeah.
But as always, guys, if you made it to the end of this podcast, you're the real MVP. Thanks, guys, and see you next week.
Peace.